New Mom and Me by Betty Ren Wright, illustrated by Betsy Day. My New Mom and Me. Cat is my oldest friend. I like to think that he remembers all my good times and bad times. He remembers the time 2 summers ago when my mom got sick and died. That was the worst time of all. I remember the funeral, but it was over. I ran into her bedroom and threw her best perfume on the floor. Dad held me close. "Try not to be angry," he said. "It's hard for us to be without Mom, but it's good to know she's in heaven with Jesus." I knew he was right, but sometimes I thought if she knew how sad I was going to be, she would have found a way to stay alive. Cat was sad too. He has been Mom's special pet. After she died, he walked from room to room trying to find her. When we watched TV at night, he sat and stared at us. When Dad called him, he ran away. "Poor Cat," Dad said. "He's smart," I said. "He doesn't want to love us because he's afraid we might die too." "Soon he'll learn to feel safe with us," said Dad. "You'll see." Cat wouldn't always come when we called him, but he would curl up on my bed each night. I would tell him how lonely I was. Sometimes I cried. Then last summer, I told him that Dad was going to get married again. Cat didn't like it any better than I did. Dad had long talks with me about his new wife. "God is bringing Elena into our lives," he said. "You're going to love her." But I knew I wouldn't. "We don't need her," I thought. Dad looked so happy, though, that I just couldn't tell him that. The first day that Elena came to our apartment to live, she tried to hug me. I wouldn't let her. Cat felt just the same. If Elena put out her hand to him, he ran off. If she dropped a piece of cheese in his dish, he waited for her to go away before he ate it. When Dad and Elena and I sat together in church, we looked like a family, but I didn't want Elena in our family. Those long Sunday afternoons together were the worst. Sometimes Elena would look at me and at Cat and then at me again. Her smile would fade away. I wondered if she was sorry she had come to live with us. I almost hoped she was. One night, Dad had to go out of town on business. Elena and I were alone. After dinner, I stayed in my room and thought about how different everything was. I wish I could run into the living room and find Mom sitting there as if nothing had happened. Then I heard Cat mewing loudly. He sounded terribly scared. I couldn't tell where he was. I looked under my bed and I opened all the dresser drawers. I looked behind the desk and I opened the closet door. He sounded much closer, but he wasn't in the closet. "Dear God," I said, "please help me find Cat. I don't know what to do." "Elena," I cried, "something's happened to Cat." Elena ran into my room and crowded into the closet with me. "Meow," howled Cat, Elena listening carefully. He must be down inside the wall, she said. As soon as she said that, I remembered the loose board at the back of my closet shelf. For weeks I had been meaning to ask Dad to fix it. I showed Elena the shelf. She pushed some boxes and uncovered a hole. The board had fallen off. That's it, said Elena. Cat slipped through the hole and fell behind the wall. Can you find a hammer and maybe a pair of gloves too? I ran to Dad's workbench and got the hammer and gardening gloves. Elena used the hammer to give a hard whack to the closet wall. Again and again she hit it until the wall board shattered. Cat howled in fright. Elena put on the gloves and pulled on the broken boards. The boards cracked and split to the floor. She reached into the opening. He'll scratch you, I warned. Poor Cat, Elena whispered. She rocked back on her heels and waited. Come, Cat, come, Cat, she sang. His head came into the opening. There was dust on his ears and a wild look in his eyes. He stopped when he saw Elena, and then, when she put out her arms, he jumped into them. I was so glad to have him back that I couldn't say anything at first. Finally, I said, We made kind of a mess of the closet, didn't we? I looked at Elena, really looked at her for the first time. Thank you for helping, Cat, I said. We went outside and sat together on the back porch steps. Elena petted Cat and sang to him. After a while, he pushed his head into the warm place under her arm. That's what he used to do with my mom, I said. I didn't mean to tell her that, but it slipped out. Elena nodded. Your mom taught Cat how to love, she said. He'll never forget her, but maybe he's tired of keeping all that love locked inside. We sat for a while, just thinking and listening to Cat purr. It was the first purr I have heard in a very long time. Then she put her arm around me and I leaned against her. It felt good, better than I had expected. Good days and bad days. My new mom and me.